Are you looking for better shooting experience? How about a facility where you can shoot all of your firearms in the same day, where you can move and shoot steel, draw from the holster, and practice your rifle work out to 600 yards? Shoot a very challenging sporting clays course or a round of trap or skeet. You can do all that and much more at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, president of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you love the outdoors, you'll want to know all about Northern Illinois' largest outdoor shooting facility, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. If you're a novice looking for a basic course, an experienced shooter looking for an advanced course, or perhaps you want to participate in your favorite shooting event, or just spend an enjoyable day with a family, the Aurora Sportsman's Club is the only shooting facility in the region that offers all that and more. Interested? Then you won't want to miss the next orientation and tour of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. Call, email, or visit our website today to find out how you can become part of a better shooting experience at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois.
He is the human Molotov cocktail that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them.
So we're going to create a new government that serves you, your family, and your country. It's
time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues, here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David's rant of the week is, it's not about guns or freedom of speech, it's about total reliance on government, with David and Gretchen talking about more gun control. Then, while some states are busy passing pro-gun laws, the governor of Vermont flips and signs a massive gun control law. And finally, Citibank is in hot water over their Second Amendment policies, and the UK's push for knife control shows us gun control doesn't make us safer. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio. So give us a call at 815-205-1584. That's 815-205-1584. Or go to Facebook, like our page On Target Radio, and ask a question or make a comment there.
And now, from the seething cauldron of personal opinion, it's time for David's Rant of the Week.
When I was working on a PhD in counseling psych, I recall psychologist Abraham Maslow remarking, "If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail." It's a problem that many dedicated Second Amendment supporters have in their quest to preserve the Second Amendment as it was intended by the Founding Fathers. We tend to become myopic, fixating on a single issue, and that can be detrimental to the overall cause. It isn't as if we haven't talked extensively about the liberal assault on our very way of life. The problem is we always talk about it from the perspective of protecting the Second Amendment. Let me caution you about doing so. Unlike the pro-2A activists, liberal progressives don't view eliminating the Second Amendment as the end game. To them, the Second Amendment is a speed bump that they just have to eliminate to clear the path to the First Amendment. And even that isn't the end game. Once you're disarmed, it's a simple matter to silence you, and there goes the First Amendment. Liberal progressive doesn't care what you think. They care about what you say and do. What they do fear is the resurgence of a charismatic speaker such as Hitler or Churchill or JFK or King, who could rally the teeming masses against the ruling class. No, that would never work. It has to be guns, free speech, enslavement. So, today it's guns. And let's be very clear, we're losing the fight. If you doubt that, consider Vermont. In 2016, Vermont experienced 6 gun-related murders. 2 with handguns, 2 with rifles, 1 a shotgun, and 1 an unknown firearm. Vermont has traditionally been a state that pro-2A supporters point to as one of the most firearm-friendly states in the country. Yet Phil Scott, a Republican governor, just signed legislation banning the sale of any firearm to most adults under 21, banning the sale of rifle magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds, and handgun magazines capable of holding more than 15 rounds. banning private sale of used firearms unless facilitated by a federally licensed gun dealer, and banning the sale and possession of bump-fire stocks. Anyone convicted of breaking the provisions of the law could face up to a year in prison or $1,000 in fines. All that, despite massive Vermonters pro-2A pushback. And Vermont isn't alone in the anti-2A movement. Enter the Florida school massacre. If you ask me, the Florida school massacre is just too convenient for the anti-Second Amendment movement. I'm not suggesting those children weren't killed, but I'm having a real problem with the killer and how law enforcement, including the FBI, ignored the many run-ins they had with him prior to the shooting. And I really have increasing reservations about how quickly an organized anti-Second Amendment youth movement sprung up. In particular, how across the country there were professionally done signs, protest venues chosen, and crowds gathered in such a short time. And then there is the hog kid. Way too polished and informed. One week they're eating Tide Pods and the next they're polished anti-gun experts. No, something stinks to high heaven about all of it. So, am I being cynical about this? About another school shooting? About the cops on site didn't go stop it? About the cops and the FBI ignoring the relevance of the constant contacts with the killer long before he walked into that school with a gun? Isn't all this really about wanting to just stop gun violence with common sense gun laws? Well, no, it's not. Because if it were, we'd be having a conversation on mental health issues and how to deal with people who have a marked propensity towards violence before they go on a killing spree. It would be a different conversation because taking firearms away from law-abiding citizens is never going to deter criminals from anything. Just look at what's happening right now in London. Great Britain has some of the most drastic gun laws in the world. Gun ownership is almost totally eliminated. Yet in the first 3 months of this year, London's murder rate has exceeded New York City. Not with firearms, but with knives. Obviously, gun control, very severe gun control, had no effect on violent crime. So what's the answer? Knife control. In announcing the new knife control law, London Mayor Sadiq Khan said it would include 300 additional London police officers to conduct stop and frisk searches of individuals suspected of carrying a knife with a blade exceeding 3 inches. So what exactly do we have in London? No firearms, no knives, discriminatory police profiling, and the tax burden of 300 additional law enforcement officers. To be fair, there is a provision in the law that allows carrying such a knife, quote, with good reason, unquote. Oddly, self-defense is not considered a good reason. In fact, self-defense itself is forbidden. No one is allowed to carry anything that is made to cause a person injury. Possession of such a product in public, and in some circumstances even in private, is against the law. The police recommend carrying a squirt bottle filled with a safe but brightly colored dye that may help police find and apprehend a criminal after the attack has been successfully completed. But it gets even better. The law goes on to say that even such a seemingly safe product would become an offensive weapon if it were used in a way that is intended to cause injury. Citizens are admonished to not take personal protection in their own hands, but rather to trust government to protect them, which is fine, except for that part about where their murder rate has exceeded New York City. So no, it's not about guns. It's about the control, and that is progressive liberalism at its finest. And that is my rant for the week.
Yeah, in America, we say, I carry a gun because the cop is too heavy.
Yep, but a squirt bottle is lighter.
But in London, it'd be like, well, I'm not allowed to carry anything, but I really need to because even if I did carry a cop, they don't have guns either.
Did you see the video of some Looney Tune guy chasing about 5 cops?
No.
I forget what exactly he was doing, but he was in the center.
Oh,
and
it's like an old one.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
Yeah, I think I have seen that
one.
And
they're trying to get him, but then he turns and starts chasing him, and they run and disperse. I wonder if that's ever happened in Chicago. I'm guessing no.
Not usually, no.
No, because the first time the guy comes at him, they just shoot him.
In America, we generally frown on police who don't run towards the danger. So, like these guys in Florida, if you don't run towards the danger, you don't have a job for very long.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. All you have to do is look at Great Britain. I mean, the history of Great Britain and guns, it goes back quite a way.
It was very
before
interesting.
World War II.
It was very, very interesting. It goes all the way back to 1689.
Right.
That is before World War II. Yes.
It was. Thank you. And even before I was born, I have to get this straight. So the Catholics were in charge, right? It was the Catholics were in charge. Protestants were moving into Great Britain, and they didn't want the Protestants to be armed. Wasn't that what it was? Or do I have that backwards?
Well, it's not Catholic in Great Britain. It's Anglican.
No, I'm saying originally.
Oh.
Back then. There was, I think, sure, because it was Henry VIII, was it not, that separated from the Catholic Church because they didn't agree with him divorcing, or for that matter, killing his wives. So I think that's what it was. But in any event, it was a religious thing. They were trying to prevent people of
a certain group,
of certain religion, of getting power, and they made it illegal for them to own firearms or weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a long tradition of screwing the public over personal protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and they did that with their oppression of the Irish and the Welsh and the Scottish. I mean, they did that to everyone that they conquered, basically,
and it worked so well.
Which is actually why Lexington and Concord was such a big deal, because the American colonists, they knew British history. They were from there. They knew that was England's MO.
That's it. Yeah.
that if they wanted to, if they wanted to keep you down, if they wanted to oppress you, first they were going to disarm you. And so they were going to disarm the American colonists, and they were like, oh, hell no.
It's not going to work. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. Wow, that went quickly.
It did.
But we have more we can talk about when we return.
That's good.
And this time, I'll set it up right. Okay?
I'm ready.
When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Second Amendment issues and a little bit about Vermont, because that's a big deal, I think. All that and more when we return with more
On Target Radio.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Do you dread writing? Is it challenging to find just the right words to get your point across? Do you put off developing marketing materials because you just don't know where to start? You get one chance to make a first impression, and my editor, Creative Business Services, can help make it a strong, positive one. Hi, this is Gretchen Fritz, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to tell you about My Editor, a business I started to help you overcome those concerns. What you're experiencing is very common. My Editor has helped business owners, candidates for political office, and even authors and public speakers. At My Editor Creative Business Services, we can simply edit your existing work or help you develop an entire writing plan of action from initial project design through final copy. We are easy to work with and will help you get your point across in the most effective manner. If words escape you, send me an email at myeditor@mail.com. Use My Editor Creative Business Services and go to print with confidence. That's myeditor@mail.com, or find us on Facebook.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
You know, what I don't understand is there something in the water that Republicans have been drinking?
How so?
Well, if you just look at many Republicans in the legislature, Washington, they're not acting like Republicans. And then we got this Vermont, Phil Scott. The man is a Republican. He campaigned on being pro-Second Amendment. Campaigned on it, you know. It's a state that had 6 gun-related murders. Yeah. 6, okay? 2 with the rifles, 2 with handguns, 1 with a shotgun, and 1 that's undetermined. They're so pro-gun they don't even pay attention to what guns are anymore. It's just, I don't know, something. Pull a trigger, it goes pew,
some
pew.
kind of projectile.
Yeah, somebody did that. How can you pass those kind of gun laws with that record?
It's a very sad story. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
I believed, since we were such a small, tight-knit state, that we were different and somewhat insulated from the violence the rest of the world was seeing. But I was wrong, and that's not always easy to admit. I support the Second Amendment, but I had to ask myself, are we truly doing everything we can to make our kids and communities safer? Because if we're at a point where our kids are afraid to go to school, and parents are afraid to put them on a bus, or police don't have the tools they need to protect victims of violence, or families can't step in to prevent a loved one from taking their own life, then who are we? The answer to those crucial questions forced me to reconsider, and after deep reflection, change some of my own views. Did you like that dramatic reading?
Who wrote that, Hogg?
No, that was from the governor of Vermont.
Yeah, but who wrote it? He's got speechwriters. Somebody hired Hogg.
Well, it could be from Bloomberg.
Yeah. They had 6 gun-related
Why are their children
murders.
afraid to go to school? I'm not really sure.
It's the teachers. They must have fangs. I mean, 6, and none of them were school shootings.
Right, exactly. Vermont, much like Utah, I don't think has ever had a school shooting.
I don't think so. I'm not sure they have schools. Well, he's good enough. He's here, you know. We teach him at home. Yeah. Well, that was more Wisconsin. Really.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just went to Minnesota there for a minute.
Yeah. It's the northern half of Wisconsin, Minnesota, where he's going tomorrow. Only his company would send him to Wisconsin in April when it's snowing. Mm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have no idea what's wrong with them.
That's good on you. Good on you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Get you some of that Lutheran coffee. It's good on you. Yeah. Vermont. See, the thing that disappoints me is Vermont is one of the few places where you go, well, there's always Vermont. You know? No matter how bad it looks, you go, well, there's always Vermont.
At least we've got Vermont.
Exactly. At least we have Paris. So, and it's just, it's shocking. I mean, I really think it is. I find it hard to believe that what he is saying is actually true. That he just like woke up and, oh, well, somebody was plotting to do something, so I'm going to change the entire philosophy that I have. I find that hard to. I think there's got to be more there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah. In a state that doesn't really have a problem with gun crimes, it seems a little strange.
I really do. I mean, it's very disappointing. And so far, the other states have held up pretty well, though. And it is a fact, and you pointed this out before the show. I sort of see the constant erosion of the right, Second Amendment. But as you pointed out, right, and rightfully so, very true, far more pro-Second Amendment bills have been passed in recent years than anti.
And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't read this article, but USA Today, I mean, it's mainstream. It's not even it's not even the NRA putting it out.
You're not going to hear it on CNN.
Well, no. And the person from the Brady campaign, what he had to say about it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
you can say it.
Michael Hammond from the Gun Owners of America said it is indisputably true that there have been far more new laws that loosen gun restrictions than tighten them. And I think we're talking since Sandy Hook. That's
right.
That's the starting point. So it's very interesting. Since 2013, governors have enacted 382 pro-gun bills across the country.
So, let's see. In the years since Sandy Hook, they've enacted nearly 600 new gun laws. Right here in Illinois. Do you remember what county that was?
I don't remember.
One of the southern Illinois counties, has. I saw the press release, but I don't know if it actually passed. But they were trying to make their county, whichever one it was, probably somewhere down around Effingham or something. They're trying to make it a gun sanctuary, which is interesting because then all the guns would sort of run down that way. They'd flock to them, you know.
That's right.
Freedom, freedom.
They paint their faces blue.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe it would be free dum dum. I don't know, but anyway.
It was Effingham. There you go.
This is why I don't make any money at all.
Some semblance of memory. That's amazing.
Exactly. Effingham. That's where the highway makes the turn, down in Effingham.
Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, and West Virginia all allow gun owners to carry loaded firearms without a permit or training. Governors in Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Kansas, and Texas signed bills that would allow people with concealed carry to bring guns on college campuses. There were 7 states before, so now now there's 12. That's pretty good.
I wonder if Illinois will join that group. Bring guns on campuses.
You're funny. You're so funny. Indiana lawmakers are close to making their state the next that allows people to carry guns on church grounds, even if there is a school on the church property. So even if they have a church-run school, that's not going to be an exception. So that's good. In Illinois, we do allow guns on church property.
It's up to the church.
Depending on the policy of the church. But I do, if there was a school there, then that would be a deal breaker.
Sure. One of the things that really has always ticked me off, and I don't know, but we probably talk about this every show, how progressive liberals just make up their own facts.
Yeah.
They just make stuff up. And I have a very hard time with this study that they're talking about. 2/3 of Americans now support stricter gun control laws, polls have found.
Yeah.
Notice they don't say what, it could be a Polish guy for all I know.
Well, that's spelled differently.
Oh, well, there's that.
But yeah, they don't say which polls. So
I find that hard to believe.
Right, and as I said before the show, if it was Rasmussen, I'd be like, okay, then I'll buy that. If it's CBS News or ABC News, not so much.
Well, and it could very well be like a New York Times poll in New York, where,
right,
But
although they do sometimes make an effort to call outside of the local area
when it benefits them.
Right.
Yeah.
So by contrast, in the past 5 years, 210 gun safety laws, aka gun control laws, were enacted in 45 states. So that's far fewer than the number backed by the NRA, so far fewer than the pro-gun laws that have passed. But Dan Gross from the Brady campaign says, sure, if you count every one of those little BS things that the corporate gun lobby has put out that you could say has weakened gun laws, it'd probably be a losing tally for us.
Yes, we do count them. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Adding to the hyperbole, I also like what the woman, Allison Anderman, is a lawyer for the Giffords Law Center, and she says, we're getting laws that we think are extremely impactful in states like Alabama and Louisiana. How many people would have been shot and killed if we hadn't passed those bills?
23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a small number.
When you get down, I lived in Georgia for a year and a half, last half of my Army time. There's less of a tendency to shoot people down. They kind of take them out in the woods and just beat the living crap out of them is what they do. It's a very context. The South, particularly the Southeast, is very context sport oriented. You know, football's king. High school football is like small
Big
town.
deal.
Oh yeah, big deal.
BFD, yeah.
And they, they consume adult beverages even when they're not, and they beat the snot out of each other.
They get married when they're 15, and
that would be the older one.
crap like that.
Yeah. It's a different way of life. You know, it's a different way of life. I was looking for. I remember I was looking for a cave. I used to pit cave when I was, and I was in the Army, and I was in Alabama for took a weekend and went up there. Friend and I were going to looking for this cave, and it was literally out in the middle of like nowhere in the woods. But we had coordinates, and as we're walking through there. There were these 4 guys carrying sacks of sugar running down the road. And we looked at each other and it's like froze because I'm just guessing, they really wouldn't want outsiders to know where they were, right? I was thinking we were going to get shot there. Now, it is true, I'm sure the statute of limitations is gone on this, it is true that both he and I were carrying guns at the time. I don't think concealed carry existed back in those days.
It did not.
But my daddy might have raised an ugly kid, but not a stupid one. You go rooting around in the deep woods of Alabama, you got to be careful.
Tread lightly, yes.
Tread lightly. Walk softly and carry a big sack of sugar.
The interesting thing is that the gun control people, although they say 2/3 of people support gun control, they're already losing steam. Already some states are struggling to pass bills that would ban bump stocks.
Yeah, exactly. That was they were all fired up after Las Vegas and it started to fizzle.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that Illinois will rise to the occasion, however.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. This is funny. States such as Idaho, Kentucky, and South Dakota are now considering measures to further loosen gun laws in the wake of the Florida shooting.
Freedom! It still bothers me about Vermont. Because if that can happen in Vermont...
Well, I think you need to go there and bitch slap the governor. If it's bothering you that much.
Do you have bail? Have you got bail money?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. It disturbs me. If you look at it, if you just look at this statistically, we're gaining ground. Mm-hmm. But the reality is...
It doesn't feel like it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. The reality is it's like, 1 step forward and 1.5 steps backward.
Although, I must be quick to point out, unlike the liberals, we don't go by our feelings.
Well, that's true.
It's not all about our feelings.
That is true. But look at... It's going to be real interesting what happens with Deerfield.
Yes.
Both the ISRA and who are the other ones? Guns Save Lives. Is that
GSL.
One of them. Was it them?
Yeah, Second Amendment Foundation.
Well, that's with the ISRA.
And the NRA, yeah.
But the NRA sided with
GSL.
Yeah, GSL. And so and I'm sure there'll be more suits. The problem is they'll probably lose in the lower court. The question is when they get to the appellate court, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And that's been like flipping a coin.
Really? You think they'll lose in the lower court?
Yeah, because it's up here.
I don't know. It just seems like a fairly straightforward, obvious thing.
I thought the same thing when I was an expert on Highland Park and Cook County, and we got screwed on both of those. When we come back, we'll talk about being screwed on something or other. When we return with more on Target Radio.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, co-host of On Target Radio, and I'd like to offer you a partnership opportunity. For over 4 years, On Target Radio covered the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech on AM 560 The Answer. But a 1-minute commercial was $200, making it tough to find enough sponsors. So last November, we left AM 560 and began podcasting. There's a learning curve to podcasting, and we've worked through the kinks and would now like to make you an offer. You can have a 60-second audio or video commercial for as little as $25 a week. We can also offer fellow conservatives their own radio or video podcast for as little as $100 a week with equipment and technical personnel included. You provide the content and host, plus get 6 free minutes of commercial time you can sell yourself. If you'd like to be an On Target Radio sponsor or explore the possibility of having your own show, call me at 815-741-3474 and let's explore the possibilities together.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
This segment is brought to you by the Will County Grassroots Division of the Illinois State Rifle Association. This month, Michelle Doyle of Defense for Life will be speaking about women's self-defense. Join the On Target Radio team and meet like-minded friends to hear a great speaker, get an update on what's happening in Springfield, and to support the right to keep and bear arms in Illinois. Join us at 7 p.m. on the third Wednesday of the month at the Silver Dollar Restaurant in Elwood, Illinois.
Do you know who I am? I was showing that to somebody the other day, and who was a big Star Wars fan, and I thought he was going to do something in his pants. He's just laughing so hard. That's it. If you've not seen this video, I can't remember the comedian's name. Izzy?
Eddie Izzard.
Eddie Izzard. Had you ever heard of him before?
I have heard that name, yes.
He's a very weird guy.
British, yeah.
Yeah, very weird guy. But
not really my kind of humor.
No. And you weren't a Star Wars fan, so.
Well, no, but I mean, I understand it. I understand the reference. But
if I think you have to be a Star Wars. You saw that, right?
Yeah, I'm not a Star Wars fan, but it was funny.
I thought it was hysterical. Every time I've seen it probably 10 times now. Every time I see it, I just crack up. Do you know who I am? So it's well done, and it's creative. Who would have ever thought about doing a comedy between using Legos and Star Wars?
Well, I think what it seems like to me is it was probably a stand-up show, and then later he or someone else created the animation.
Yeah, it's the impression I got.
I didn't get that impression. I thought he did it. But you are correct. It was just a stand-up act without, it was just him on the stage. But he's got others. He's got a bunch of them.
Well, like I said,
yeah,
him or someone else.
Admittedly, he's a strange guy. Admittedly, but he is funny. He's a funny guy.
There's one that I've seen. It's a different comedian. It's actually a black comedian. And I would have to Google it to find his name, but same idea. It was a stand-up show, a stand-up bit that he did, and somebody did some animation for it, and it's really quite good.
It's, yeah.
It's called the Shorty Scale.
Anyway, the whole British thing we talked about, you talk about profiling. Somebody's walking down the street, and the cops have a right in Great Britain, this is like Japan. They've become like Japan.
Right.
The cops have rights to stop you and frisk you.
Yes.
Now, they were doing that in New York,
Yes.
And apparently
it was working.
I was just going to say, to be fair, how I always say, you're entitled to your own opinion, not your own facts. Sometimes the facts work in our favor, sometimes they don't. Mm-hmm. To be fair, it had an impact. It definitely had an impact.
They would get crime. You. I've mentioned to you a number of times that your belt is like that.
That is true. When you carry that much lead and steel on
one side.
On one side, yeah, and that leg is now shorter. Yeah, it is true.
They'd be like, okay, it's not exactly profiling, but I'm pretty sure this guy's carrying.
The guy leaning to the right over there with a big bulge underneath his shirt.
The guy whose belt is like this and he's dragging his right leg, I think he's got a gun.
But it's a big one. You know what I'm talking about, yeah.
The funny thing about the stop and frisk is that the Muslim mayor, Sadiq Khan, used to condemn. Probably when he was running for office, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm guessing when he was trying to become the mayor, he was like, stop and frisk is bad.
Yes, exactly.
And now...
Profiling.
Yeah. And now he's like, okay, well, it's actually a really good idea.
Well, yeah, since gun control worked out so well for them, how do you actually beat New York?
They had to work at it. They've been working at it
seriously.
since 1689, apparently.
Back in 1689, they go, you know what? Here's the goal we're going to set. Don't rush into this. By 2018.
There's going to be a city called New York on the other side of this ocean.
It's flat, though. It's flat.
Right. It's up
Before
under.
you get to the edge. Yeah, right.
It's on the other side. There's going to be a city, and we're going to outpace them in the murder rate. Okay, so
With what do we call those things? Let's call them schmucks. No, that's not a good one. No, frisch spots. No, that's not good. What about gun? Gub. We'll call them gubs.
So back in 1689, the English Bill of Rights theoretically protected the right of individual British subjects to possess arms for purposes of self-defense. So I shouldn't say it didn't start in 1689. It started in 1920.
You know, we talk about God-given rights, and whether people believe in God or not is sort of irrelevant to this, because the fact is, you're a human being. We have a natural protective instinct, so survival instinct.
Right. Self-preservation.
Exactly.
It's a natural instinct for
It's
self-preservation.
It's the strongest thing in a
Well,
human being.
and as a lot of people want to point out, one of them being our friend Steve Balich, does life have value or doesn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, if you have any sort of moral compass that tells you that life has value, then self-defense is instinctual. It's like you said, if you don't believe in God, okay, call it a natural right. I don't care what you call it, but it is a natural right.
Exactly. And to say, that part about saving yourself, well, we're not going to
Just forget that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that part. But, a strong case can be made. This has been going on, this desensitization towards human life has been going on for a long time.
Oh, yeah. About 100 years.
Yeah, probably. Well, probably more than that. I mean, you look at the Civil War. Holy Mother God! I mean, they weren't battles. They were like slaughterhouses. They were still attacking in rank formation, and they just mowed people down. Both sides mowed people down. I don't know. I just I don't know that. I think, well, since Cain and Abel, if you actually want to go back and think about it,
yes,
the killing people started a lot longer than that.
Right.
And Colonel Dave
Sanders. Grossman.
What did you say?
You said Colonel, I said Sanders.
You know what?
You know what? I'm sick of being your straight man. I'm done.
Colonel Sanders. And those are killing fields. They slaughter those chickens, It's
millions of chickens a day.
Exactly.
I almost dropped an F-bomb in there.
No, we don't want to do it.
It might have been funnier.
That might have
actually.
been funnier.
It would have been funnier.
It might have been funnier.
But no, we really have. We are. It's funny. Humans are actually very violent. They really are, if you think about it. We don't pussyfoot around when we're if we're going to get even with somebody, we go for the jugular vein. It's odd. I guess it's just, I think.
Well, it's better to just get it over with and be done with it.
Well, I think you're right. But look at what's happening. They're trying to pass, and there are people in this country that are trying to do the same thing. I mean, Soros and those people are doing the same thing. Guns are bad, shouldn't protect yourself. Government's going to take care of you. And that's crap. We all know that.
Yes.
Now, here's a lab. London, okay?
Right.
That's it. It's a living
Right.
lab.
Sure.
And I admit that they have less to live for. If I were a Brit, I understand that.
There's something to be said for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, they got frizzy hair, bad teeth, and the breakfast.
I was going to say, there's the food, nothing to recommend it, and the weather.
Oh, that's the frizzy hair.
Well, right. I mean, you probably want to kill yourself just from that.
When I think, truly, I think that the phrase referring to food to die for originated in London, because if you ever ate one of those breakfasts, you're willing to die. It really is. It's just...
Well, as you said, you know, your British friend was like, well, that's why we conquered all these other countries, so we could finally get some decent food up in here.
That's right. To get the hell out of Dodge. Yeah. I can't eat that stuff.
If I ever went, I can't ever see going to England at this point because it is so bad over there.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Both from a human rights perspective and from a crime perspective. Yeah. I'd probably just eat nothing but fish and chips the entire time. That's like the only British thing that I think is like any good.
Beef Wellington. I'm picking on Britain because we're just being glib. Britain's a great place. It really is. And I every time I've ever gone there, I've always enjoyed it. There's nothing like the British Museum. You walk in the British Museum, it's like, oh my God. All the antiquities, you know, they just went and pillaged everything. Now, they did it on the assumption that these backwoods third world countries weren't protecting the antiquities, so they moved them to preserve them. Yeah. And in later years, some countries stopped being third world and go, give me my stuff back. but seriously, when you go to the British Museum, they have the Rosetta Stone, not a model. They have the Rosetta Stone. It's like, oh, damn, that's pretty cool. London, I like London, and I particularly like Wales and the more open country of Great Britain. It's beautiful. It really is. Do you know a lot of people still live in thatched roof huts? But they're not. I mean, they're not like
huts. They're cottages.
Yeah. Exactly, cottage. That's correct. And they've got. They're all modern. But that style, a lot of people still live in them. Yeah, and it's quaint.
It does look really cute. I mean, in the movies, it looks really cute.
And then you got to learn the names. This is bourgeois and douchewag, and
I thought you were talking about like the Hampshire,
Yeah, they got these. Everything is something on something. This is Stokes on vomit or something. I mean, they've just got all these weird names. I never understood it. Yeah.
And he's the one that's supposed to be cultured.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. It's Scotland. I fell in love with Scotland. You like Scotland. Scotland is very rough-hewn.
I could see Scotland.
It's beautiful. Beautiful place. It's beautiful. And, you drive in your car.
It's not as much murder in Scotland.
No, they don't kill people. They kill sheep. Yeah. And mostly it's the drivers that do that. Because all of Scotland is valleys, right? And there's one road at the bottom, and you're doing like 60, and you turn a corner, and there's a flock of sheep doing their thing in the middle of the road. So when we come back, we will talk about you and as an EWE when we return with more on Target Radio.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. The On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invite you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
In need of a ride to O'Hare or Midway Airport? Well, look no further. The Yellow Checker Cab Company is the cab company for you. With the Yellow Checker Cab Company, you will always be greeted by a friendly face and arrive safely and on time for your flight. Start your trip off right by taking advantage of one of their limos, shuttle vans, cabs, or courtesy cars. And airport trips are not all they specialize in. This 24-hour cab service will pick you up anytime, any day, for any occasion. From bachelorette parties to school dances finances to just a night out with friends. Yellow Checker Cab Company has the best rates in town. So sit back, relax, and leave the driving to the professionals. Once you experience their fast and affordable cab service, you'll be a customer for life. When it comes to cab companies, be sure to choose Yellow Checker Cab because you have the right to expect certain things from your cab company. For further information or to book your trip today, call 815-744-2900. That's 815-744-2900.
You're listening to On Target Radio with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
From the ISRA, time is running out for the anti-gunners to override the governor's veto of SB 1657, the gun dealer licensing bill. A vetoed bill must start in the chamber where it originated. Because SB 1657 started in the Senate, the time limit is 10 days to act. That means the showdown vote will be next week. Please call your senators and remind them to vote against the override. There are plenty of bad bills that bear watching, like HB 1465, HB 1467, and HB 1469. We will call for witness slips on amendments to those bills if there is time. Join On Target Radio at Illinois Gun Owners Lobby Day, Wednesday, April 25th in Springfield. Block out the date, put in your day off request, plan your carpool. Do whatever you have to do to be in Springfield on April 25th. We need several thousand defenders of the Second Amendment to show up and make their wishes known to the Illinois General Assembly. This is one of the best ways to combat the gun control movement and legislation in Illinois. The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman. Sunday, April 22nd, Introduction to Tactical Carbine, taught by David. Friday, April 27th, NRA Range Safety Officer, taught by David. Saturday, April 28th, NRA Basic Instructor Training, taught by David. Sunday, April 29th, NRA Chief Range Safety Officer, taught by David. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on Register. Apparently, he has something better to do. John Spann on the last segment said, I understand they actually have indoor plumbing in England.
I'm bubble tea.
Oh, isn't that funny? Suck my balls. I'm bubble tea. Suck my balls.
It says, bubble tea company needs a better translator.
Well, you never know. Maybe they did it on purpose.
Oh, God, that's funny.
See, now, that's why everybody wants to be my Facebook friend, is because you talk about all the wonderful memes I find.
You do. You know what? You really, really do.
I find all the best shit.
I'll wake up at like 3:34 in the morning, right? And I don't know why, it gets hotter up there or whatever. And I'll wake up, and the first thing I do is I grab because I got so much email, as long as I'm awake, I dump it. And I'll go and I'll find, there's a little red thing. There's a little something on Facebook for you. And you punch it. It's some totally off-the-wall, bizarre thing that she's put up on there. It makes me want to, call you in the middle of the night and laugh on the phone and hang up.
I'm glad you don't do that.
That is funny, though. They probably need a better interpreter. Yeah, probably do. Where's that from, do you know?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. Something we should mention for iGold. If you are going to be at iGold, where I volunteered these two.
Thank you.
There's a gentleman whose name I can't remember, Bill something. I don't remember his name. Do you?
Didn't it start with an M? I don't remember.
I can't recall. And he was just there yesterday morning.
Oh, this is riveting radio.
Okay. So anyway, the point is this. He has a program going for the ISRA. That's actually very interesting, and they've had some really good results with it. What he's doing is he's getting people in a given district and he's pulling them together, ISRA members, pro 2A types, and scheduling visit with your local legislator. And what's been interesting about it is the first time, he said the first time they went into a legislator's office that was not a pro-Second Amendment type person, it turned out that 3 or 4 of the people that he went in with, they go with like 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 of the people that went in, he knew, the legislator knew personally. One of them was putting signs out for him, another one had gotten signatures for him, and never related them to Second Amendment, right? They were helping. They liked him as a legislator, but they disagreed on that one issue. And what he was saying is originally they said, well, Congressman doesn't have a lot of time, you can have 30 minutes. He canceled appointments. They were there like an hour and a half talking.
Oh, wow.
And he said that's happened on more than one occasion where, I don't have a lot of time, I'll give you 15 minutes, and they end up talking for an hour, hour and a half. So that program, it's an ISRA program, and they're looking at some specific districts where they really need to make that touch, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to put a sign up or something. I hope that's how they'll do it, because most people don't know what district they're in. But if you do by zip code, you can do it. And we, the On Target, do you know who I am? I'm On Target Radio. The On Target Radio crew is going to be armed with PCs, and you can come up, we'll be at a table, and you can come up and we'll enter you in the database so that when he gets around to that district, he's going to get 4, 5, 6. He said they don't really want more than probably 4, 5, or 6 people.
Sure.
So we're going to be part of that. But it's a really good program because it puts a face on Second Amendment issues.
Yes.
So anyway.
Well, right, and that's really the thing, is that we're really reasonable. I mean, if you talk to us one-on-one or in small groups,
right.
Turns out we're actually completely normal, reasonable people. And the people who are just rabidly anti-gun, they think we're crazy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it makes it more real.
Except the 2 people that decided they didn't want to sit next to me at Bill Foster's thing.
That was really funny. He was driving people away.
The truth can be painful.
You just say a couple of words and they're like running for the...
They are.
Which was pretty funny.
What I find interesting about, and obviously this is a generalization, but typically the people who are like that, and they're all blustery and, you should do this and do that, the guy gave me a chest thump. He's lucky he didn't get his you-know-what kick. When I turned to him and I said, because he knew that I had a shooting school because I was talking to somebody I was talking past him. I said, I always teach my students, you want to be careful who you piss off because you don't know what they're capable of. And that's when he decided he wanted to move to another seat.
And let's put this in perspective, too. You had a front row seat, front and center, and people were moving away.
That's true. That's true. And I had worn deodorant, so I know that's not what it was. Well, actually, not deodorant. It was a bay leaf under each arm. It's
potato.
Yeah, what do you want me to say? Yeah. So you came up with something here.
Yeah. So you were saying that the Republicans have all like lost their spine, except for 16 Republican congressmen. They wrote a letter to the GSA, the General Services Administration, and they asked them to terminate a contract, a $700 billion contract with Citibank, because of Citibank's new guidelines targeting customers wishing to exercise their legal Second Amendment rights. We urge you to cancel Citibank's participation in the Smart Pay 3 contract and award it to a company that does not unfairly restrict a customer's constitutional rights.
Do we know how that turned out?
They just did it. This is from...
Did they actually do it?
Yeah, this is from Thursday. So they just sent this letter, and... it includes prominent reps like Thomas Massey of Kentucky, Louis Gohmert of Texas. But yeah, I guess this says, in the letter, it says, under their March 22nd guidelines, Citibank's customers will have to meet restrictions that go far beyond federal requirements, including background checks and age restrictions for buyers, and would pressure sellers to take high-capacity magazines and other accessories off their shelves.
This is vaguely reminiscent of Smith & Wesson under Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
and they almost went out of business.
Yeah.
Dick's has done this.
Mm-hmm.
Dicks are dicks, you know.
What a bunch of dicks.
Yeah, they did it. I don't think they, you know what, I think, like the NFL, I think these people are so arrogant that they go, well, there's nothing they can do to me.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL had tanked.
Oh, yeah.
Literally
yeah.
tanked.
Their ratings and their ticket sales were in the shit can.
And just think about it for a second. Just literally think about it. Who are the red media? Who are the people who go to football games? Who go to NASCAR? I mean, these are guys.
The people in the flyover seats.
Exactly. Let's go on to the football game. Yeah, we're going to have a tailgate first, and then if we can find the stadium, we'll go and watch the game. That'll be great. Bring a fifth of Jack Daniels in. I mean, it would be like going to NASCAR and saying that, you know? If a NASCAR driver took a knee during the national anthem, they'd kill him.
Oh.
They'd just tie him on the back of the car.
His career would be over.
Exactly.
Done.
And then these people feel like they've been treated unfairly. Well, you're taking out on me. Yeah, that's correct. We are. You have a right to say what you want to say. We have a right to bankrupt you. I think that's fair, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what actually happened if they actually did cancel the Citibank thing. I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other.
Well, like I said, the first step, they just took the first step, so it's going to be a while.
We need to do more of that stuff.
I didn't get a chance to read this whole article that I brought about the group shutting down the anti-Islam conferences. I don't know why Daily Caller called it anti-Islam conferences. It's educational. Kind of like that guy, Colonel Golash, that I introduced you to.
Yeah.
Similar thing. This guy, where's his name? John Guandolo. He has an organization called Understanding the Threat. He is a Naval Academy graduate, a combat veteran Marine officer, a former FBI special agent, and he created some of the first government training on the Muslim Brotherhood and its U.S. operations. So he has educated the military on the Muslim threat, and now he's educating civilians on the Muslim threat, just like that guy. Now, Colonel Golash works for Act for America. Yeah. Very, very similar, though. That sounds like a very similar organization. And so there's another organization called Worldview Weekend. It's a conservative Christian organization that produces radio and television shows, and they sponsor events. So they had 5 conferences scheduled for last weekend, and Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, and 4 of the 5 were canceled because of threats from Antifa groups and Muslims and different people threatening violence.
I find it interesting that they always refer to conservatives as people who are violent and all that. First of all, we're working. We don't have time to be violent.
I mean, there's, as far as I can tell, there's very little evidence for that.
Right. And yet, in all of the things that we've seen in the news, they burn stuff, they turn cop cars over, they loot stores and stuff. None of them has ever been a group of Republicans.
Right.
It's always the left.
Right. And, you know, I imagined back when I was protesting outside abortion clinics in the 90s, I imagined, you know, there was actually a Christian satire song called I Blew Up the Clinic Real Good about a guy who wants to blow up an abortion clinic. Very little of that actually happened. I mean, I think there was 1 or 2 instances of things like that, but, you know, very little of that. Things that we could, you know, really justify.
Sure.
You know, committing violence because we believe in the cause, but you know, we do very little of that. Yeah. I think it goes back to the value of life thing. You know that
it does. It certainly does.
We're law-abiding citizens, and we believe that life has value, and we don't go around killing people and brutalizing people. We just don't think it's right.
We believe in the rule of law.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't agree with it, but then you work to change it.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't make sense to believe in the rule of law and then not follow the law, except when it comes to speeding on country roads. Anyway, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen tonight, and we'd appreciate it if you tell your friends about On Target Radio.
We'd also like to thank our engineer, Eric Allen, and our sponsors, the Will County chapter of the Illinois State Rifle Association, Yellow Checker of Joliet, My Editor Creative Business Services, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
And be sure, if you come down to iGold and you really need to, be sure to stop and say hi to us. And finally, we hope you'll listen next week when we'll be covering more red meat issues that affect your life.